Hello again, everyone. Today I wanted to do a little bit of a review of a recent watercolor class that I completed called Mastering Watercolor by Jane Blundell. And this was a course that I think this was the first time that she had ever offered it online, although I think she had said that before she'd done it sort of through PDFs that she would email back and forth. But generally it's something she does in person, and I really do think that these classes that I've been able to take with people who are just amazing artists and amazing teachers is really the silver lining of this whole pandemic situation, because I don't think I otherwise would have been offered the opportunity to study with someone who I, even before I took the class, I kind of idealized Jane Blundell, and to get to know her a little bit better through her class and her teaching has been really, really great, because I found out that she's not only a great artist, but she's a fantastic teacher, and she's incredibly kind, and gives great constructive criticism, and is great about encouraging people, but also helping them figure out how to learn and grow within watercolor. And I loved it so much that I am currently enrolled in her travel sketching class, which does involve watercolor, and I'm not too far along in it yet because I was a little late starting this class and a little late finishing this class. That I'm still sort of in the early stages of that, and we're dealing with things like pencils and charcoal, but eventually it will include watercolor. But travel sketching is something that I personally really love doing and would love to learn more about, different methods that I can incorporate that will make my art better. So what you're seeing now, and what you're seeing now is one of the reference images that we used in mastering watercolors. And this is the only image and completed watercolor that I'm going to show you. Generally, Jane Blundell's guidelines for sharing things from her class were kind of like, share maybe 10% of the course. And I'm erring on the side of trying to share less than that, because I think that it is an amazing class, and I think that if you're interested in watercolor at all and you have the ability to take this class online, I highly recommend it. And I don't, not only do I not want to give away her content that she has people pay for, which is totally legitimate and warranted, but I also don't want to give away the surprises of the class, because part of it was, for me, was going through the class and just learning so much at every different stage. And I feel like my watercolor skills have really, really improved upon taking this class. And it showed me a lot of methods that I didn't necessarily know before. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this and show you the watercolor painting that I did based on this reference image. And this really included a bunch of different techniques. We were learning how to paint backgrounds. We were learning how to lift color. We were learning how to preserve highlights. We were learning how to deal with granulating colors, how to create texture, and just generally, learning how to render something so that it's similar to what you're looking at. Although I have to say that and also I have to say that all of the participants in the class have been really super friendly and encouraging to each other, and it's a really nice community to be a part of, to have so many wonderful, lovely artists all together. And not everybody's at the same skill level. Some people are just beginning. Some people have been watercoloring for quite a while, but across the board, people were incredibly supportive to each other, and I really, really love that artists can do that for each other. And a lot of what I was going to say is that a lot of people are not necessarily people who like to render things exactly as they look. They tend to have their own visual style, and it definitely accommodated that. And I think Jane Blundell is more on the side of being very realistic in her painting. And I love her paintings. Her paintings are just amazing. And you can actually see a lot of her paintings and a lot of her swatching and recommendations for a lot of things on her website. I'm going to link to her website, and I'm also going to link to the course, if I can find the link to the actual sign up for the course itself. But she's very generous in what she shares on her website. And, I thought, well, she's already shared so much. I hope I learn a lot in this class. And it was a ton that I learned in this class. Let's just say that. I think I'm still working on some things, and obviously this is more a working sketch. I mean, this isn't necessarily something that I would consider perfection. Obviously, there was some bleed through the tape when I was making the background and all that kind of thing, and you can still see some pencil lines and that sort of thing. But this is like worlds away from where I started in the course. And this was even midway through. And I'm not going to show you anything else completed from this class, but I am going to tell you that I think anyone who's interested in watercolor should take it, even though I already said that. So I wanted to share this, and I wanted to share one tip that I thought that to me was kind of mind-blowing because I did not really know about it, and you all may know about it. Maybe it's not as mind-blowing to you, but to me it really gave me a new tool to create some really interesting detail. So I'll go ahead and bring this up to the camera so that you can see. So what I'm talking about is, so see how there's this detail in this stem of this pear here? Sorry, my hand's a little shaky today. That is not all pencil lines. There's pencil line on the outside, but inside the little ridges and things, that is from scraping into the wet watercolor. And by doing that, it makes the pigment fall into the scrapes, and then you can create this lovely little detail that I don't think I ever would have been able to create by, drawing fine lines in watercolor. And this, especially for this subject and the stems of these pears, it was perfect. But I can see so many different applications for that method. I think Jane Blundell uses a porcupine quill to make all of her indents. I wasn't able to get a hold of a porcupine quill before the class started, and actually I'm still waiting on some from Amazon from somewhere. But I at first tried the opposite side of a paintbrush, and I'll kind of show you what I mean. So at first I tried using the blunt end of the paintbrush that I was using, or different paintbrushes, and that I found like I couldn't really get enough detail, and I couldn't really get the sharper lines that I wanted. And what I ended up finding was a great, and this is actually a new Pentel Carry pencil that I have here. But what I found was a great way to get those little scratchy lines is if I put the lead from a lead pencil all the way in, and this is a 0.5, and the one I was using was a 0.5. The actual metal piece is great for scraping. I kept sharing this on the class and no one ever really mentioned it. So I don't know if they saw it or maybe they didn't think it was cool as I did. But I thought this was a really great find for me personally, because then I have something that's sort of a dual use item. So I can use the pencil, and then I can also use the metal part of the mechanical pencil as a scraping tool, which I thought was really, really cool. So I think that's all I really wanted to share. I think, well, I might have been going into this a little bit earlier, but I wanted to expound on it. I really am still trying to find my style, I think, with watercolor. Because I do like natural depictions, but I also really love abstracts and painting abstracts and sort of abstracted reality. And I'm wondering if my style might actually be somewhere in between. And then it depends on the subject for me as well. Like with landscapes, I kind of like it to be somewhat realistic, but I do want there to be some element of, you can tell that this is a watercolor painting. I'll put a link down below to my video that I did on some travel watercolor sketches I did of landscapes, and that is kind of, I think I want to push it a little bit more, but I think with that I've already kind of found my voice a little bit. It's not super realistic, but it's also not super abstracted. It's somewhere in between. And I think for botanical style sketching and watercolor, which I think this kind of is, in that it's kind of detailed and trying to get a lot of detail. And part of that was to learn the lessons of this particular lesson as well. And that's why we did it this way. But I really would like to get more into botanical painting in a more realistic style, just to learn those methods. But I don't necessarily think that that would be the style that I end up in. I think I want to take those skills, and I have a lot of really beautiful books that I've purchased recently that I intend to profile on the channel soon, that I actually got as recommendations from other YouTubers and people who paint botanicals. But I do want to learn those skills and then sort of take those skills and apply it to what I think my overall style will be. And for me, I think I have a hard time painting just with no reference whatsoever. I kind of like, well, what am I going to paint? Which is why I really like this sort of thing where I have a prompt, I have a purpose, I know what I'm painting. And with landscape too, I can see what I'm painting, and then I, can interpret that through my painting however I want. But what I think is really great about Jane Blundell's class is she's coming from teaching you the skills of being able to render subjects pretty accurately. And then, you can take those skills and use them to conform to your own style. And she's even said with this new class, the travel sketching, it's a little bit more open to using your own style, because this, I think we were working within her palette, and quite frankly, I'm truly amazed at how much work she did on developing that palette, and finding out all the different mixes that you could use, and being really efficient with the use of color, and that you only need certain colors because you can always create other colors with those colors that you have in this palette. I was just quite frankly amazed, and I don't think I would ever have the patience to study things in that level of detail, to come up with that sort of thing like she does. But that's why she's the master and why she's the teacher and I'm not. But I really did want to share this with you and encourage you to look into that class if you're looking for a class. If for no other reason than to be a part of a really lovely watercolor community. There's also been some classes that I've taken from the owner of the Art Toolkit. And she has also been super lovely, and her classes are obviously in a completely different style, but I really, really enjoyed them as well. And I'll put a link down below. I'll see if I can find, actually, I'll just put a link to her website, because I think if you subscribe to her newsletter, if she plans to offer online versions of her classes again, she will include that in the newsletter. Actually, the last newsletter that I got from her indicated that she was going to be rerunning some of the classes that I had already taken. So I'll put a link to that as well. But it's been a real joy and a pleasure to be able to learn from people that I had so much respect for beforehand, and now it's double-fold, because I really appreciate all the skill and talent that they have, not only in the work that they do, but in the work that they produce, and their teaching ability. And anyway, I'm going to stop gushing now, but I will put links to all that below. And all I want to say is this was a great course. I loved it. I highly recommend it, and I hope you consider it. All right, take care. Thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.